All right, episode 3, and we finally have someone worth talking to on the podcast. We're up here in sunny Bright for, Tour of Bright with the one and only Matthew Keenan. So,
First guest?
first guest, third
Pressure's on.
episode. Yeah. It's,
Well, we thought we'd get someone in to show us how it's done. So we've fumbled our way through the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
You can lead the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we want to talk about? We're going to start.
Yeah.
Tour of Bright?
Tour of Bright.
Sure, Brian, I think. I thought it was brilliant. I think this is the best year it's been. I think just a brilliant event. It's just grown and grown and grown.
You and I are the old guys on this
We are.
podcast, right? We're both 50.
Yeah.
And often you hear people of our vintage,
Yeah.
they talk about
The older
motion's
days, yeah.
not like it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's way better.
I
It's
think-
way harder. The standard's way higher.
Yeah. I think it was just a wonderful weekend. Like they started with the crit, the atmosphere at the crit. I race B grade with the punters, but it was amazing. The crowd was so loud.
How many local bike races do you go to where you've got the guy that was 4th in the Tour de France? You've got Olympic gold medalist from the team's pursuit. You've got Luke Plapp, who's won a stage at the Giro d'Italia. The women's race, you got Brodie Chapman, who won the mixed team relay,
Yeah.
and she was brilliant at the Tour de France this year as well.
Yeah.
She's the current Australian time trial champion.
Amazing.
But then for me, coming to a race like this, I'm not that interested in A grade.
Yeah.
I'm looking at B grade. And I'm looking at the riders who are 16, 17 years of
Yeah.
age, because this is the proving ground.
Yeah.
You look back at some of the past results in this, and Ben O'Connor finished 4th in general classification here
Yep.
when he was just starting out. Cadel Evans won B grade in around about 1995.
Yeah.
This is where you see the next generation of stars coming through. And for me, this is research. This is homework.
Yeah. I think if you do well at Tour of Bright, you're a good bike rider. You don't do it by accident.
No.
They're unless, you don't do it by accident. If you get a result here, you are a world class rider.
Well, in men's B grade, look at first and second. First place in the general classification, local kid from here.
Lockie
Lockie
Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah.
He's riding with the Decathlon's development team next year, and he'll be first year under 19.
Yeah.
The kid that finished second might be even better.
Yeah.
He's from across Toowoomba Gap in Mount Beauty. Alec Fransky is
Yeah.
his name. He's only 16 years of age. Does more running at the moment than he does bike riding. In running, he won the 10K at Wangaratta recently. 16 years of age, he ran about 30 minutes, 30 seconds.
God.
Jeez.
He tried to qualify for the Australian Under-20 Championships.
Yeah.
He did that at a race at Box Hill. I think his time was 14 minutes and 43 seconds.
Yeah.
16 years of age, 1K pace at
God.
2:57.
Crazy.
Right, so this kid hasn't raced
Yeah.
much at all.
Yeah.
Last night, as soon as I got back to the room after seeing his performance, I've sent a message to ARA, to
Yeah.
Matt Wilson. I said, take a look at this kid.
Sign this
Yeah.
kid up.
Let's see what he's... So they're the 2 riders that I'm looking forward to watching
Yeah.
over the next few years.
Yeah, I think it's the same with the women's. Although they're probably racing. There are some good riders in B grade, but they're probably the middle of the pack of A grade.
Yes.
No.
Well, even you look at Talia Appleton, you coach Sarah Giganti.
Yeah.
She was 1 second off the Strava record on Toowoomba of Sarah.
and got it today. Got it by 20
Yeah.
seconds up Buffalo.
Did she get the Buffalo?
Yeah, by a lot.
I was talking to Nick at the Tour of Toowoomba yesterday, and it's got to be one of the, like you were saying, it's got to
Yeah.
be one of the best 20-minute power performances ever.
I think it
Yeah.
will be in the top 20
Yeah.
of all time.
Yeah,
I think
so
She did.
Maybe higher than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe higher.
Very
But of the
good.
database I've got, which is not everything, but it's a lot of the major races.
Yeah.
It's in the top. It's probably be close to the bottom of the top 10 of all time.
who coaches Talia?
Nick.
Like I
You
said,
do.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's she doing next year? She's
The
with
Jayco Dev team.
the development team.
Yeah.
So what races will suit her in Europe?
Well, at the moment, there's a chance that they'll move her up. I think
Okay. So how do you manage her progress? She's 20 or 19?
she's 20. She's turning 20.
She's just turned 20.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that process of not rushing her?
Well, tricky because if she makes the World Tour team, then that's so the Dev team is development based. So you don't need to rush it. So she's good enough that she'll get results at Conti level. If they do move her up to the World Tour team, that's a little bit different because then that will be performance focused. So we'll have to change tact a little bit. I also think that I don't know if it will be rushing it. I think she's good enough to ride World Tour.
Yeah.
moment.
But then you look at Felicity Wilson-Heffernan,
Mm.
and she won the Junior Worlds in the time trial,
Yeah.
and then she went straight into the Lido Trek World
Yeah.
Tour team. I think they would have been better off putting her in the development.
Another
team.
example is Alyssa Pilates, who was a
Perfect
superstar
example.
kid who I'm coaching, who the same thing went to. And I think they're both good examples of going in too young. I don't know. I don't think you have to. I don't think just because you're young, it means that you can't
No.
make the step. And I think Talia was one who probably could, maturity wise, skill wise, as an all-round rider. I think she could probably make the step. But your point's valid. Like,
Yeah.
how do
And
you manage?
Felicity has, in the last 12 months,
Yeah.
she's grown into that
Yeah.
World Tour level.
Yeah.
But the first 2 years, I think she would have learnt more by being
Yeah,
at a
okay.
level just slightly lower, so she remembers how to win. Because winning is a habit. And
Yeah.
losing that habit of winning can also set you back psychologically as well.
I think people just easily get seduced by power and performances and raw strength.
Yeah.
And it's easy for coaches.
Never a problem I had doing it.
I think it's easy for coaches and directors of teams to see numbers and go, "My God, she can do 5.5 watts a kilo for half an hour." Like,
Yeah.
that is world tour level. Like, we've got to put her into the world tour team. It's really easy to get seduced by that, and it's difficult. I find it difficult too to say, like, Tali's a good example. Like, how do you manage it? Probably she'd be better off having a whole year in the dev team. Probably.
Okay, so then let's switch back to the B grade men's race, and you've got two
Yeah.
16-year-olds who are producing huge numbers.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to assess how much more can they grow. And you
Yeah.
put Max Gould into this
Yeah.
category as well.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
brilliant in the A
Yeah.
grade race. They are riding and training often as juniors at a level that they didn't get to in terms of the amount of time that they're putting in until
Yeah.
they were maybe 19. So you've also got to factor that in. And which
Yeah.
kid is physically more mature at that age,
Yeah.
which kid is putting in more time, will give you a bit of an indication as well as to where's the upside. Because
Yeah.
often at 16 or 17, it might be the kid who's fourth or fifth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
physically has barely hit puberty yet,
Yeah.
that is only doing 10 hours a week
Yeah.
against other kids who are doing 20 hours a week. And that's where the upside is.
Yeah.
And in your roles, and also when you're leading a team and doing recruitment for a team, it's being able to identify that one that's right in front of you.
It's also about reassuring as well. Like, I was having this exact conversation last night with two of the under 17s that I coach in B grade, and they can get quite frustrated with their performance because it's such a performance-oriented sport now, and you have to be, or it's ideal to be in an under-19 World Tour development team just to get to the under-23 development team just to get to the World Tour now. And it's actually saying, well, all these guys who are under-19, all the guys you look up to now in the elite category, like when they were under-19, under-17, there are guys better than them. They just caught up or quit the sport or had all these other factors that go into performance longer term. And you and I, Nick, spoke about this the other day.
It's a great philosophical discussion around this, around the obsession with youth in sport. We'll talk about cycling, like in cycling, like where they're recruiting athletes that are younger and younger and younger. But it puts, I think what might have been with you, I've chatted with, I've had a couple of conversations where it puts pressure on us as coaches to push these kids harder than what you'd like. Because if you don't push them hard enough, they're not in the system. They're not in the funnel of the system.
Yeah. Tade's got a lot to answer for, doesn't he?
Well, he does, because it's
Tade and Remco.
Yeah, because it's from Tade and Remco. Like they're two examples of where you've plucked kids from under 19 level that have gone on to be two of the best cyclists in history.
Yeah.
But there's 500 examples of not that.
Yeah. And let's give a couple. So Primoz Roglic.
Yeah.
He was at an age where he rode his first race that was 2 years older than when Tade won the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Grace Brown rode her first bike race at 22, 23.
Oh, maybe later.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Maybe
Brody
older.
Chapman
Maybe
would
older.
be the same.
Brody Chapman is similar.
Georgie Howe, like there's so
Simon
many.
Gerrans didn't make it into the pro peloton until he was 25.
Yeah.
Cadel Evans, although he was a junior star, he rode the Tour de France for the first time at 28.
Yeah, one out of 34.
One at 34.
There's more examples of it not happening from
Yeah.
juniors than there are of examples of it happening from juniors. But
Jay Vine. So without the Zwift Academy, Jay Vine gets missed out.
Yeah.
He gets looked over.
Yeah. For some reason, the whole model of recruitment though is now moved into the very few exceptions of the rule. Because the rule is not that. The rule is that you develop when you develop, and it will, for some people it will be 25, some people will be 30, some people will be 19. But now the recruitment policy for most teams now is that we'll take them at 17, which I find it puts pressure on. I think that it puts pressure on me to do things in training to push them to a point that I'm not comfortable with. But if I don't do it, then you'll do it. Or if you don't do it, or someone will do it. Not yet, but someone else will do it. Someone will say, "Well, I'll do it."
Ineos signed Benjamin Novel's son. His son's name just escapes me at the moment, but at the end of his under 17 year. So before it even raced as an under 19, they'd already pre-signed him to contract with their World Tour team.
Yeah, yeah.
And the kid has got an engine, and he proved that then at the Junior Worlds this year. But man, oh man, give him some space to breathe.
Yeah, but what's the answer?
Yeah.
What's the answer? It's almost got to a point. It's almost got to a point now where how do you turn it around?
Okay, so if I'm working for a World Tour team, I'm looking at the 17-year-old and the 18-year-old, and I am trying to get them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're looking for them, but I'm also looking for the money ball selection as well.
Yeah.
Looking for the 26-year-old that has persevered, gone out of the under-23s, hasn't been able to pick up a contract, but has shown the resilience that becomes really valuable on a World Tour team.
Yeah.
Adam Hansen would fit into that sort of category
Yeah.
when he was racing.
I think just to touch on that as well, if you're a lower budget team and you're looking at picking up a 18, 19-year-old with the sort of the idea of developing them across the next 5 years, you're probably going to develop them and then not be able to afford them against UAE or anything like
Picnic
that.
post
Anyway.
and
That was about
Correct.
That has been there, that's been with them from the start.
Yeah.
From when they were still Shimano.
Yeah.
And they had Marcel Kittel on the team. They had John Degenkolb. Degenkolb's back there now, but they went elsewhere.
Yeah.
They've had Michael Matthews gone through that team. Warren Barguila's gone through that team. Tom Dumoulin won the Giro with that team and then left. And that has been the DNA of that squad. Pick them young, get the best that they can out of them up until they can't afford them by the time they hit 24.
Flick 'em.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, to their own demise.
Yeah. Well, we got a bit off topic, which was nice.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the Tour of Bright.
Won't be the first time in this podcast.
You'll notice, Keeno, this is a very common
Yeah.
theme in the pod that we'll go down
We do.
rabbit holes.
Tour of Bright this year. What did we all think?
Yeah, I was actually pretty keen to ask Keeno. Like, you raced one of the very early editions. You said-
Second edition ever, 1994. The
94.
first one was in 93.
Yep.
Believe it or not, it was a race for sprinters.
Yep.
2 flat road stages and a time trial.
Yep.
They didn't even go up Toowoomba Gap, no Mount Buffalo, no Mount Hotham.
Crazy.
But I raced it the second year in 94, and that year we used Toowoomba Gap. That was on stage 1 on the Saturday. No, it was stage 2. Saturday morning was a time trial, 8K time trial to Wandy and back, just from the area where you land from going paragliding.
Yep.
And then in the afternoon, it was Gaps Loop.
Yep.
But you went over Toowoomba Gap and you finished down in the heart of Bright.
Mm.
And Max Gould, his dad, Matt Gould, who that year won the Exceed National Road Series, he went out the night before up Toowoomba Gap. And not a lot of people had ridden it at that point.
Yeah.
There hadn't been as many people coming up here for training camps. Anyway, 2 kilometres to go, he was out there with the spray can, KOM, 1 kilometre.
Nice.
1.5 Ks to go. KOM, 500 metres. 1K from the KOM, ha ha ha. So there's all these false attacks with 2Ks to go. Gould is just following
Love
the
it.
wheel.
Love it.
K to go, off he goes.
I love it.
Just
amazing.
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
Other than the level just increasing, obviously, which we'll talk about in a minute with actual cycling performance. What have you seen change just within Bright and the Tour since between say 1994 and now? What's some of the major changes you've seen over the years?
The way the town has embraced cycling.
Okay.
So when the Tour of Bright first started, a big part of the economy here was the snowfields. Now, the local economy is driven more by cycling than any other element of tourism, whether that be people up here for the Tour of Bright, road riding, 3 Peaks Challenge, families coming up here. My family's coming up on Monday. The only time I can get my wife and kids onto a bike is when we're in Bright. And we'll ride to Harrietville, have a meat pie and ride back. We'll ride to Myrtleford, go to the bakery and ride back. Mystic Mountain as well, the amount of mountain bikers that are coming up here. And, they get the shuttle ride up the hill, they come tearing back down. Creates plenty of business for the local hospital and the Ambos. The jumps park that's over near Pioneer Park where the football ground is and the tennis courts and the netball courts. It is the best place in Australia to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Best place in the world, I think many would agree. It's for Australians anyway.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing.
Well, look at the athletes that are based here.
Yeah.
You've got the current Australian under-23 road champion. You've got the time trial champion in Plappy. So Julian Baudry is a local. 2 young kids that we've spoken about already that were first and second in the general classification here. I think first and second in Masters A. One was from Mount Beauty. The other one was from Bright as well. If you got all the best riders that live here locally, Lucy Stewart, she doesn't live here, but family's got a holiday home here.
Yep.
She won the Nationals in Perth earlier this year. If you got all the locals on one bunch ride, it's a World Tour bunch ride.
Yeah. I think the level's grown. Like the last few years, it just seems to have just skyrocketed. The Tour of Bright. Like since Stu Tripp, Ollie, and
Full credit to them. That's been a
and
great
with
team.
Darren Casey promoting it so well this year, it's just the vibe has just been sensational.
Yeah.
That's
It's the one weekend that doesn't need to be on. They're talking about, does it need UCI points? Should it be part of the Pro Velo Super League? It doesn't need that.
No.
And part of the charm is that it doesn't have that because you get A, B, and C. You get the Masters categories here
Yeah.
as well.
I think
And-
part of the charm also is it's a relaxed,
Yeah.
atmosphere. It's a serious race,
Definitely.
and people race it seriously, but it's
Yep.
everyone's relaxed. Like
Yeah.
even Luke and Talia, like they're relaxed. They're enjoying the weekend. They're having, like Luke had a beer last night. Like you wouldn't do that if it was a Provello race. There's no chance, or 0 points.
And for local regions that they want to host bike races, not because they like cycling, but because they want to get people staying in beds. And you are much better off with Masters categories, junior categories, and B and C grade than you are trying to host an elite race, unless it's the Tour Down Under.
Yeah.
Anything below that, and you're better off with a Masters rider coming up here and they bring their family as well.
Yep.
Or a junior comes up here and they need mum and dad and siblings to come as well.
Yeah.
That has a bigger impact on the local
For
economy.
sure.
And that should be one of the elements that Provello Super League needs to look at,
Yeah.
so they can get more investment from the local tourism bodies that, we're bringing Australia's best young cyclists to town,
But you can race as well.
but we're bringing 500 other people as well who are going to come. Each rider is plus 1 or 2 people along, and it's going to have a really good
Well, that's where they make their
impact
money.
on your
That's where
economy.
they make their money from.
Yes.
Yeah, from Masters riders and for the sub elite riders. More so than the elite. But yeah, I think it's just a great. One, it's a great race for coaching. It's a great race in the lead up to the Australian summer. It sits at a perfect time for riders. There's a standalone TT, which they're very rare.
And that's why Brodie came.
Yeah, for
Brodie
sure.
Chapman came as the current Australian time trial champion. She spoke to Plappy, how do you prepare for the Nationals? Tour of Bright.
Tour of Bright, do a TT, yeah.
And she came here with the TT.
Yeah, exactly right. For people who are doing the TT at Nationals, I would, if they can get to Tour of Bright, I would always have people do the TT here because there's just so few opportunities to do a high quality standalone TT.
Great little rehearsal.
Yeah, it really is.
And as you said, from a coaching company point of view as well, having everyone from Masters, Juniors, A graders, World Tour riders, everyone in between, I think it's been really nice to be able to, observe your riders all in one place racing at the same time. And the criticism and the feedback you're giving riders will change a lot from Masters C to Men's A and Women's A and all sorts of things. But it's pretty awesome to be able to do that all in the one place.
Do the riders that you coach, do they know each other?
Most, I'd say most of some.
Yeah.
There's,
And
but this is one of the only times they all congregate in one place.
And from a business perspective, and also from a feeling a part of something, because everybody wants to feel part of a community. Does it help?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
as a business?
massively. We come here for a week or two every year, and it's almost like a celebration of the work that you've done across the year, and get to spend time with your athletes that you maybe are doing largely remote work with, and it's my favorite part of the year, I think.
Yeah.
It's also really good just to set the tone for the summer as well. It's really fun. The weather's usually really good. As you said, it's well timed that you're still training quite hard, but it's also still relaxed time of year. And I think it's really good to Tour of Bright just sets everyone off in a great mood for the next 6 weeks, which are quite down to business.
And
I
is
think
this
it's
where
really
you
cool.
have the most face-to-face contact with your clients?
I think so.
Probably most of them, like in terms of sheer numbers of people. Yeah, definitely.
Because is it one of your challenges in your business as a coach to make it feel personal, particularly when you've got a reasonable volume of athletes and you've got from the elite down to somebody that wants to move from C grade to B grade?
Yeah, I find that definitely the biggest challenge. It's very hard, especially when you've got, larger volumes and that kind of thing. And trying to keep in contact on a very regular basis and understand everyone's, bits and pieces that are important to them. And sort of having a database and that and sort of having it rolling along and progressing is hugely challenging for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The next thing I guess a lot of the listener questions were about and something we wanted to get into is when you raced those early 1994 Tour of Brights and the rest of your cycling career.
Yeah.
What was your training for something in 1994 Tour of Bright, and what were you doing in the years before and after as a cyclist? Because I think a lot of people obviously know you as a really good broadcaster, but maybe not as much about your cycling career.
I had a coach, a guy by the name of Jimmy Pritchard, who was way ahead of his time. He had a health issue with his liver, and that had him off work quite a lot. And he did a lot of research on cycling. It was books then, and a lot of it was from East Germany and the USSR, that style of thing. And I would have at least one day per week that would be in his bungalow, that he had a set of rollers that had wind resistance on them. And he would work out my weight and then what speed I'd be doing to have a rough calculation of wattage output
Yeah.
in 1995. Yeah.
That's great.
That was very
And
ahead of the time.
It was way ahead of his time. And I'd be in his bungalow and it'd be 3-minute intervals, I'd do 5-minute intervals, I'd be doing some 20-minute intervals. And that was my most structured day of training. And then I lived in Rosanna. A lot of rides were out towards King Lake and so on. And it'd be 20-minute strength endurance efforts up King Lake. And that was really common at that time, particularly with the VIS with Dave Sanders coaching.
Yeah.
He did a lot of motor pacing with his athletes, and they'd be up the 1 and 20 doing strength endurance efforts. And Saturday afternoon, Northern Combine Club race. Sunday morning, meet at Bundura Hotel at 7:30, over Hume Vale, down to Flowerdale, Broadford, back home, working in a local bike shop. And
What'd the food and drink look like for a ride like that? What was the fueling?
nowhere near as sophisticated as it is today. But the greatest invention as a sports nutrition is the banana. Great packaging, easy to dispose of, and it packs plenty of punch. But obviously most athletes up until 5 years ago were underfueled.
Yeah.
Definitely underfueled.
Yep.
And the amount of times that you came home, on the brink of going hunger flat was most Sunday long rides. You'd be on the brink of it.
Yep.
Wednesday, we'd do a ride that was 7:45 at the Ringwood Clock Tower, and there'd be a pretty solid group there. David McKenzie, Alan Aquan, Steve Drake, who won a national title in 93. Hayden Bradbury would be there. Matt Gould, Scott Stewart was kind of the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
And you'd go out towards Healesville, Warrie Alex, stop at the bakery, have a coffee scroll, into Gembrook Cockatoo, lap around the old national championship circuit from 91, back up over the wall, into Ringwood,
God.
and everybody
Big
go
ride.
home.
Big ride on a coffee scroll.
Nationals in Gembrook.
Gembrook, 1991. Yeah, it was about a 22-kilometre loop, or was it? Yeah, it was 91. And Robert Crowe, he won the road race with a flat back wheel for about the last 5 Ks, and he won the individual time trial as well. And then he rode the team time trial at the Olympics in Barcelona, which was the last ever team time trial at the Olympics.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So for me, as a bike rider, I was an okay cyclist at the national level. So I finished top 10 in the national championships in 96. That was in Centennial Park. It was Ks, around a 5-kilometre circuit.
Sydney.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, that was one. Nick Gates won it. Eddie Salas was second, and he'd ridden the Giro a couple of times, finished 6th at the Olympics in Seoul. Damien McDonald was third, and he rode the Olympics that year, got selected for the Olympics in Atlanta. Adrian Nolan was 4th. Brett Dennis was 5th. He beat Lance Armstrong in the time trial at Tour de Pont 93, was a gold medalist from the Commonwealth Games in 94. And then I was 6th. And that was the first year there was under-23s at the World Championships. I was the first under-23 in the Nationals that year. And the second of the under-23s was Jay Sweet. He finished 8th in the race. And he went on to win the Commonwealth Games road race 2 years later and rode the Tour de France. So I was top 10 at the National Championships. The equivalent of the National Road Series that year, I finished 5th. Won a couple of races that are, classified as VRS races probably now. And then had a season in Europe in the year before that, a season in Europe the year after that.
Yeah.
But it was generally the foundation of the results sheet. I was holding everybody else up.
Yeah, I mean that's better than that's a very accomplished cycling career.
I was okay.
You're underselling yourself.
Yeah, but the reason that I didn't make it as a elite cyclist was not a lack of effort. I had fantastic coaching. I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And sitting here at 50 years of age, I'm really comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I'd be much less comfortable with, what if I had done this? Or what if I had done that?
Yeah.
So in 97, I was 22 years of age and I was riding for a French club. Same sort of level that Simon Gerrans was racing at in 2004.
Yeah.
And he won 14 races that year.
Yeah.
And when I was racing at that level, I won 2 races.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
And I went there that year saying, I have got to win 4 races to justify coming back for another year to keep chasing this dream. And I didn't. I won 2, had a second place, had a third place, and a few other top 5s, but I didn't achieve what I'd set out to achieve. So then I said, okay, well, the dream of being a pro cyclist is over. Came home, 23 years of age. I went to university to get an education so I could get a proper job. But there were 2 local races that I still wanted to win. One was the Jim Fawcett Memorial, because that's the guy that got me into cycling. He was a family friend, tragically killed when I was 12 years of age. I'd previously gotten the fastest time in his memorial race when I was an under-19. And then I really wanted to win that race, and I won it. And I also wanted to win the Northern Suburbs 3-day tour on the Queen's birthday weekend as it was then. And that year I finished second. I didn't win it. So I go, I've got to go for another year, come back. So in 99, I came back and I won that race, and that was the last race I rode.
Wow. I think that's Nick's right. You're definitely being modest in the accomplishments that you made as a cyclist. But I think the thing that's even cooler than that is it's really rare that someone was racing all those years ago at it as hard as they can at the highest level that they could, and then still stays so close and relevant to the sport and still changes with the times. You see a lot of ex-riders, ex-pros, coaches who are still maybe like they knew what they did back then and it's maybe still in their mind that that's how things are. Or you see people come into the sport late and they're all with all the new stuff. But it's rare that someone stays so close to the sport for as long as a period as you have and can still recount the stories and also still be up to date with what's happening currently at a professional level as well. I think
I love watching what you guys do. I love the process of coaching. I find it absolutely fascinating. And that has partly been inspired by the guy that coached me because he was ahead of his time. In fact, I showed one of his coaching programs to, his name escapes me. He used to coach the Praties team.
Mark Fenner.
Mark Fenner. I showed Mark Fenner one of the programs that I had from 96. And he said, this is really good. And I showed Mark in about 2010. Yeah. I said, mate, that's from 96. From a guy who passed away about 5 years ago. Wow, that's pretty cool. So I love the process of the training. And for me, when I started to do commentating, it wasn't with the desire to have commentating to be my job. It was I wanted to stay involved in the sport. And I thought about coaching, but I didn't want to commit my time or have somebody commit their time to me and for me let them down. Didn't want to be an official or a commissaire because that's just too hard and there's no pats on the back when you're a commissaire. And then an advert came up to be a co-commentator at what is now John Cain Arena for Melbourne Cup on Wheels, Austral Wheel Race and so on. I thought that'd be a fun way to stay involved. So I volunteered for that, commentated on that. Then I thought, this is fantastic. Maybe there's more than one way to skin a cat. I didn't get to the Tour de France as an athlete. Maybe I can get there some other way. So then I started volunteering at community radio. I was commentating on Simon Clark versus Mitch Docker in the under-17s, Warragul, in a junior track carnival. I drive myself to Leongatha to commentate on the races there. I went to Bendigo to commentate on the races there. I probably did about 4 years of commentating before I got paid for any of those commentary gigs. I just wanted to stay involved in it. But I also was chasing the dream of getting back in to the elite side of the sport. And I figured, same as training for a bike race, there's no good trying to get an entry into a race and then fronting up and seeing how you go. You've got to do the preparation. And I was doing the preparation. So when the window of opportunity opened, I was ready. So I applied the same training principles of preparation to commentating in the same way as there's kids out there racing at the moment. They're not getting paid, but they're chasing that dream. They're still training their backside off. And I was doing the same thing in commentary to get ready for when an opportunity came up.
It's a great example of having a plan. We've discussed it the last couple of times, but also you consciously investing in yourself.
I had a clear plan and I knew that it was a contact sport. So after doing community radio for over a year, I pitched a radio show to SEN, Sports Entertainment Network. And it was a triathlon and cycling show called First Off the Bike. And again, my idea of that was getting more runs on the board and working in all different facets of the media that I possibly could. And knowing that it's a contact sport, Phil Liggett came out here for the Bay Crits. I paid for myself to go to the Bay Crits and commentate on B grade, do the support races, and then Phil would commentate on the elites. And then the second year I came back, I paid again and commentate on the B grade races. And Phil invited me up on the stage for the last stage of the elite races. So that was the beginning of building a relationship with him. I knew he'd be somebody of influence. I knew Paul Sherwin would be somebody of influence. So on my show on SEN, I contacted Paul, got his contact details off Phil. I'd love to do a story about your life in cycling. Basically, it was me trying to suck up to Paul to get on his good side. So I had a relationship with him. And then in 2007, they were both asked to commentate on the Tour of Qatar by ASO. ASO obviously run the Tour de France, etc. But Tour of California clashed. Phil and Paul were committed to the Tour of California. I'd never met Paul in person. No one from ASO had ever heard of me before, but ASO asked Phil and Paul, you guys aren't available. Who do you recommend to commentate for us on the Tour of Qatar? they both put my name forward
Yeah.
without ever having heard of me. So that was 5 years from when I first commentated. And then that's when I got my first real opportunity to commentate for ASO.
That's an unreal story. It's like Nick said, the fundamentals are there for like a good preparation, but then throughout that, like, it's 5 years, a long time. Were you like always sure that you're on the right track, or did you kind of just sort of want to go with the flow, or how did you?
I never went with the flow. I always had a plan.
Yeah.
Definitely had a plan.
And you were always convinced you're on the right track with it?
There was plenty of self-doubt, a lot of self-doubt. And from that one in 2007, they said at the Tour of Qatar, this is an audition to be the warm-up act to Phil and Paul at the Tour de France.
Wow.
Because in the previous few years, they'd had somebody different each year and they weren't particularly happy with them. So they were looking to refresh that role yet again. So they told me that was an audition. And whenever you're nervous, you talk too fast and you talk too much. And I did a terrible job on that first stage. And it was chaos at the end. Graham Brown, God love him, caused this massive crash. Tom Steels went down. It was complete chaos. Anyway, I asked ASO after that first stage, what did you think of the commentary today? Oh, we had some technical problems. We couldn't listen to you. Fantastic. Another opportunity, stage 2. Now, I got no feedback. And then I came home and I got an email from them then asking if I was available to do Paris-Nice. And then I got to do the tour that year and the warm-up act to Phil and Paul. But I kept work. 2007, I did the Tour de France, 2008, 2009, and I was still working full-time. And I took leave without pay to go and do all the bike races that I was doing. And then I was asking for additional leave. And then my daughter was born in February of 2010. So I'd commentate on the Tour de France 3 times by this stage. And 2 weeks after she was born, I went and commentated on Paris-Nice. And then I came home on a Wednesday night at 10:30 and left to go to the office on the Thursday at 7:30. My wife has just got this now 4-week-old baby at home. She had a emergency cesarean as well, so she couldn't drive and lift much heavy stuff. And I came home from work that day and she said, right, it's one or the other, office job or commentator. Okay, this is what I really want to do. But we don't have a lot of money for me to do that because I'm not earning much money in commentating at the moment. You're now not working. Yeah. We're getting rid of my job, which was a secure wage. Are we prepared to take this risk? Give me 12 months. Will you back me? She said, yep. Okay. So Friday I went to work and I resigned. And then we'd gone from essentially 2.5 wages to a half a wage with a newborn baby. But we gave ourselves 12 months. And that Monday, my phone, I've never rung so many numbers in my life, trying to get jobs at triathlons and I did a Equitana. I did an equestrian event.
Wow.
I know nothing about dressage.
Yeah, wow.
And then after I did that event, Equitana, I came to the conclusion, if you are not genuine, you'll get found out really quickly. I don't want to commentate on a sport that I'm not passionate about again. So I wrote the business plan and I started with a mission statement. And the mission statement remains the same to this day. Infect as many people as possible with the bike bug. So I run what I do through that. If I'm achieving that mission, the money will take care of itself.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I spent 10 years as the warm-up act to Phil and Paul before I then got to commentate on a stage finish at the Tour de France.
Yeah.
So from when I first commentated to calling a stage finish at the Tour de France, it was 15 years.
Wow.
Overnight success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took 15 years. And then, so those first 10 tours that I commentated on, I didn't feel like I'd achieved that mission of, there's another way to skin a cat. I hadn't commentated a stage finish at the Tour de France yet. So I didn't feel like I'd accomplished what I'd set out to accomplish. But then after the first year where I was commentating the stage finishes, obviously you get a lot of criticism. Don't read the comment section.
Yeah.
But I was walking down the Champs-Élysées before the final stage. And on the big screen in Paris, they're playing the highlights of that edition of the Tour de France. And there's French commentary and there's English commentary. And I heard my voice in Paris calling the highlights of the Tour de France. And that's when I sat back and reflected on the 15 years and it was worth every risk that I took.
Have you changed I think there's good parallels between what you do and what cyclists do, athletes do in terms of preparation and then a performance, which is the commentary. Like, what's your process that you go through when you're preparing to do a race? Because I saw you. I'm a co-commentator, or co-commentator is very generous to me. Melbourne to Warney, I was there. I was sitting at the table, and I watched your preparation, and I was just in awe of how much you knew about the riders and the race and different parts without having notes or without really looking at it. What's the process you go through each race?
Yeah. And again, it's the same process with your athletes. So you don't have to have in front of Sarah when she's doing a time trial the exact numbers necessarily. She knows what she needs to do because she's done it so many times in training. And it's the same with commentary. When I first started commentating, there was no pro cycling stats.
Yeah.
So you did a lot more work on the riders' results. Now you don't need to do as much work on the riders' results. One of the things that I always try and achieve, and this is going back to performance again, when I was first commentating on my own, I put 3 dot points on the screen. One was add value to the pictures, 1 point at a time, light and shade.
Yeah.
So going back to add value to the pictures, I want to be able to provide information that you can't find with AI or on Google. And saying somebody finished 7th or 8th in a race or this person won, anybody can find that information.
Yeah.
So I've got to find now. I used to do a lot of work finding their results, but I don't need to do that anymore because it's really easy to find. Now I'm doing a lot more work on finding their backstory. Yeah. What sport did they do as a kid? What were they like at school? Have they done any other study? Did they have a parent that was famous for some other event? Nielsen Powers, for example, his mum ran the marathon at the Olympics. That's interesting to people. You look for those other elements, those other stories. And I do all that preparation and I take notes and I write it all down and I've got it there on a hard drive if I need it. But once I've done the preparation, done the homework, it gets stuck in my hard drive anyway. Whereas if somebody is there Googling at the time and they're getting fed that information, they'll be able to spit it out on air, but it doesn't come as naturally and it doesn't necessarily come at the right time in the context of the race. And they won't remember it the same way as if you've done the preparation, the homework. The same way as studying for an exam. If you study for an exam and you're handwriting notes, you'll remember stuff more than if you're just reading the book.
Yep. I think on top of that as well, there's knowing the information, but then actually providing it in an interesting way. I think Matthew Keenan, the commentator, has a really good tone and cadence and really grabs the audience. Do you work on that side of things as well? Yeah.
So I had this guy called Peter Meehan come up to me at one event. It was hilarious. And it was one of the Maillot Jaune events. So, the guys that are in their 70s and so on that absolutely love cycling. And he came up to me towards the end of the event and he said, Matthew, Peter Meehan, here's my card. We should go and have a coffee. You're good, but if you keep going the way you are, you'll only ever be average.
Honest feedback.
Okay. So normally the honest feedback is only online. Yeah. People will can you online. Yeah. But to your face, they're really nice. Yeah. They're so much braver when they're anonymous and they're online. Anyway, I thought good on him for coming and saying that to me. And I was really taken aback by it.
Yeah.
And then I went home and the first thing I did, Peter Meehan, business card. Hang on a minute. So Peter Meehan, he rode track national championships. He was from WA. He was number 1 breakfast host in Melbourne for about 10 years on 3AW. Yeah. And he was a speechwriter, public speaker trainer for a whole bunch of politicians. I'm like, okay.
Runs on the board.
Runs on the board. Peter, when are we having coffee? He said, where do you live? He came to me and he paid for the coffee.
Wow.
And we had a coffee and he gave me, using a graph, this is how you talk. This is how you need to talk. And he talked me through it. And that was a turning point in my career. And one of his statements to me, people watching your commentary or listening to your commentary, they should be able to feel the race, even if they don't speak English. So you turn on a bike race next time and listen to French or Spanish or Italian, Dutch. See if you can feel the race without necessarily knowing the words. That's what I'm trying to do.
In terms of the excitement and things like that, like the pitch and...
You need to hear in my voice if that's a disappointing moment.
Yeah.
If that's somebody not hitting the target. If that's tragic, somebody has crashed. Or if that is the absolute highlight of this person's career. My tone of voice should tell you what that moment is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it historic? Is it a big moment? Or are we just going through the motions? Is there 100 kilometres to go? It's a block headwind and the breakaway has an advantage of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. My tone should be able to help actually have you understand what is happening in the race.
Is that something you practice? Is it you can obviously just do it now, but how did you go about that process of going from where you were average, I'm sure you were average, to where you are now?
You look at your data profiles.
Yeah.
You look at analyze your races, you analyze your athletes. I listen back to myself. It's the most uncomfortable thing that you can possibly do.
I never do.
I hate listening.
I can't do it.
I really don't enjoy it at all. I don't like listening to my voice, but you have to listen back. And I did like those first 5 years, as much work as I could, as many community radio, commentating on races that is B grade under 15s. The lower the level of the race, the harder it is to commentate.
Yeah.
Because the riders don't necessarily have a story to tell. And the audience is mum and dad. So they'll let you know pretty quick that they get it wrong. Back to part of your question before, beyond the tone and the delivery, it's all very well having all these stats, but how's it relevant to what's happening? So, for example, if you've got a breakaway which has got two guys that are weighing about 75 to 80 kilos and they're both time trialists, well, that's relevant. All of a sudden, this guy is a time trialist, or this woman is a time trialist in the breakaway. So that's relevant. Them being time trialists in the breakaway working together is relevant. Yeah. If it's a stage that is going to include some gravel or so on, and you've got some riders in there that have raced BMX or cyclocross in the past, that's a stat that then becomes relevant to that moment. So the stat has got to add value to the pictures. It's got to be relevant to what's happening.
When you're preparing for a race, do you look at the course profile and have an idea about where key moments will be?
Definitely.
And have an idea about what could happen, like what the scenarios could eventuate?
Definitely. And try and talk to as many DSs and mechanics and soigneurs as possible to get that extra information that you can't find by Googling results. So again, that is adding value to the pictures that you can't find on the internet. The other element that you need to know everybody's role on a team. People often think, how do you identify who's who on the screen? Well, you've got 8 riders. Let's take a stage of the Tour de France, for example. You've got a sprint team. If it's Alpecin de Koenig, for example, and it's a flat stage, well, I know that it's going to be Sylvain Dillier on the front as soon as the early breakaway goes. Yeah. And I know there's not going to be Matthew Van der Poel that's chasing early because he's going to be the third last lead-out rider. Yeah. It's not going to be Caden Groves because he's only going to be on the front with the last 500 metres. Yeah. So you need to know everybody's role within the team. And I could almost tell, if you told me the team that is on the front with how many kilometres to go on a particular stage, I reckon with a 90% strike rate, I'll be able to tell you which rider is that's on the front. You take me to 1 kilometre to go with the team that is leading, I'll be able to tell you the order that the train is in the lead out for the sprint without looking at the screen.
You'd be doing very similar preparations for the DSs.
Yes.
In a lot of aspects. Like you're trying to predict what's going to happen in the race. And
now that we've got a lot of Aussie DSs, they're pretty high on my most regular called people, trying to get information out of them. And they're really generous with giving me information.
I've 2 questions on it. How do you strike the balance between, obviously a lot of the viewers, especially for the Tour de France, don't know much about cycling, but they watch the Tour de France, they're Tour fans. How do you strike the balance commentating for people who have no idea about drafting or any part of the tactics of the sport and people who are really experienced in the sport and kind of cater to both? Because obviously they don't want to listen to each other.
That's the biggest challenge. Okay. And the Tour de France is similar to the Spring Racing Carnival. Who watches a horse race in August?
Not many people. Well, I do.
Yeah. Oh, you're on your own.
Yeah.
No. Okay. You are the odd one out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Jackson Gambler.
Get it to me.
Well, I'll pack that another time.
Yeah.
But come November, come the Spring Racing Carnival, everybody will watch at least one horse race.
Yeah.
And that's the Tour de France. So I've got a whole bunch of people that don't watch any other races, that only watch the Tour de France. And that makes up a large percentage of the people that watch the Tour. And for us to grow the sport of cycling, we need to get those people in. And for a lot of those people, it's the scenery that is the gateway drug into actually watching the race and getting interested in the race. And for them, there's elements of the sport that they completely do not understand. They don't understand the benefit of drafting. They don't understand why somebody can be leading for 100 kilometres and then finishes 5 minutes behind. They don't understand why Mark Cavendish in a stage in the mountains, if the time cut-off is 40 minutes, he's wasting energy if he comes in at 35. He wants to come in at 39. So you're trying to explain a lot of those things that this group, that the people that you coach, just know anyway. So but you're trying to deliver that information in the same way that I'm not talking down to you. But then you also get those hardcore cycling people that want the really nerdy information. But most of the audience is not that interested in power output, heart rate, CDA, any of those elements. Most of the audience, particularly for the tour, they're interested in the human story. This person's coming back from a broken collarbone. This person's father or mother or uncle or grandmother passed away a month ago. They're really emotional. They're pointing to the sky and they've got tears in their eyes. Everybody can relate to that. Maybe 5% of the audience can relate to 6 watts per kilo, but not many. When you get to the Vuelta or the Giro, you can go a bit more nerd. And I really enjoy that element of it, but it is definitely catering towards the masses more so than the hardcore cycling audience.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of like the way you deliver, is it just, because you obviously do touch on both at different points, is it just drip feeding and then making sure that it's not too long between catering
and
for
it's
both sort of people?
Yeah, and it's also keeping it to the pictures.
Yeah.
So one of the elements that happens in the Tour de France is we get what's called a touristic guide, and that gives you the information for every chateau, every church, historical monument that's coming up. And the helicopter camera that has a plan to pick those images. Yeah. So it's about picking those images, but coming back to the race if something happens as well. And my role as the lead commentator is actually not necessarily for me to say the technical stuff, because although I raced at an okay level nationally, by comparison to the people that I'm commentating with, I can't carry their bags as an athlete. So me saying something about the technical aspects of the sport, I might use the exact same words as Simon or Bridie or Caleb or David McKenzie, but doesn't carry anywhere near the weight that it does from somebody that's actually done it at the highest level. So it's more important, even if I think I know that information, I believe I can deliver that information, and my statement might be exactly the same as Simon Guerin's. Coming from Simon Guerin's, it's way more valuable because he's won stages at the Tour de France.
That was pretty much answers my the second question I had, which was, do you think that your experience as a cyclist or your longer experience as a professional commentator is more valuable in terms of understanding and relaying what's going on in the pictures?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
So my experience in cycling lets me ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And often you're asking a question that you believe you know the answer to. And even if it's opinion, I like it when we have different opinions is really healthy as well.
Yeah.
And that's what makes for a good broadcast. You can't have everybody agreeing all the time. It's healthy to disagree.
Absolutely.
And it's really boring if you forecast and get it right all the time who's going to win. That's the beauty of sport, is having the underdog get up. 2016 Paris-Roubaix, Matt Hayman, Tom Boonen coming into the velodrome together. Boonen had won 110 races going into that velodrome. Hayman had won 2. You know, I can imagine what it was like, the Flemish broadcast. He's got this wrapped up. He's going to win his 5th. But you've got to give both riders hope, create the tension in it. And I've expected Tom Boonen to win, but he didn't. Every now and then the underdog gets up, and they're the great moments in sport when you get surprised, when you are wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think and those are the moments that, circling back to the start of the episode, the young kids who race B grade this weekend, those are the moments they see on TV and hear you commentate so well, and then that's what motivates them to sort of continue in the sport, I think. And it's really nice to it's unique that we get to speak to someone who's a different part of that's not the DS or the athlete, I think.
And that's
really cool.
When I was a kid, we didn't have the coverage on SBS. When I first fell in love with cycling, the Tour de France was on Channel 9 on a Saturday afternoon while we were sport. And it would be about 45 minutes of coverage to wrap up each week's of racing on a Saturday afternoon. And I'd have the VHS out, ready for the next ad break to finish, and there's the tour, and you'd record it. And it was the American coverage. It had Phil and Paul doing the commentary pieces, but it was all pretty much post-produced. And this guy, John Tesh, who was the host, and he was amazing. He had me into the Tour de France, and I was like, this is the best ever. Will Pedro Delgado spread wings in the Pyrenees and fly away with the maillot jaune? Or will it be the bespectacled Laurent Fignon who returns to Paris in yellow, but it blows an ill wind for the rest of the peloton when Greg LeMond rides the Tour de France?
I have goosebumps.
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is cool. So I'm aware of the 12-year-old or the 15-year-old, the 16-year-old that's watching. And I've got the opportunity to have them fall in love with the sport.
Yeah.
The other responsibility in commentary that you have is you are commentating for most people on the crowning moment of their career. And you're the soundtrack to the best moment of their career. Do it justice.
Yeah.
They've worked really hard to get there. So do it justice.
That is very cool. And I guess that'd be the same even with the local, like
Doesn't matter what-
Provello and everything.
Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what the level of the race is.
Yeah.
Once the red light is on, you treat every race the same. I was commentating on the C grade,
B grade crit on Friday.
B grade crit.
I don't think that was your best work. Obviously.
I was
Every lap I came around thinking, oh, please, Matt, say something. And
I was too busy talking about Tom McFarlane. It was actually off the front, as opposed to Nick Owen. It
Say
was off the
something,
back.
say something. That's why I stayed in the race.
But and when I go to those national championships, it's juniors and so on. Every kid loves to hear their name.
Of course I do.
And I remember riding track carnivals at Northcote Velodrome on the Austral or the Melbourne Cup on wheels. I could never win one of those races because I was terrible on the track. But I'd attack just to hear Stewie Doyle say my name.
Yeah.
And you want to give those kids the thrill of having them hear their name over the loudspeaker. And I'm standing on the side of the road with Tom commentating on C grade and B grade at a race like the Tour of Bright. And you got to put
But it would be.
I
It would be
enjoy
such
it.
an
I love it.
exciting moment for them to hit. Or
Yeah.
if if they can video it and hear it, like if they can record it. Like it's such an exciting moment.
And it's a privilege for me to be able to do
Yeah,
that.
it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you know that people appreciate it because they would really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I remember what it was like
Yeah.
to get Stewie Doyle to say my name
Yeah.
over the loudspeaker
Yeah.
at Northcote.
Yeah.
As you're heading down the back straight, you can smell the barbecue from the Laylaw Footy Club. It was the best.
Yeah.
That is very
Wow.
cool and a very unique perspective that we can get some insight in for the listeners. I think that was really good. So what's the plan now? Will you do Provello
Yes.
through next year and then just the same schedule as usual
Yeah.
sort of thing?
And I love doing Pro Velo. I love doing the local races because, again, that gives me the stories to tell.
Yeah.
When we're going to see these athletes at the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Sophie Ma, Jack Ward, Talia Appleton,
yeah.
we're going to see them at the World Tour level.
Yep.
And I'm going to be able to refer to what they did in the Q Tour or the Tour of Tassie.
Yeah.
As Cadel Evans winning the Tour of Tassie in 1998 has been referenced so many times. And there's another generation coming through where we get that backstory.
Yeah.
And it's at those races where I meet the parents and I meet the siblings and you get a feel for what this athlete is like. And I can then add value to the pictures when they're on a bigger stage.
Very cool. What are you looking forward to, I guess, to wrap up? Seeing now that we've almost kicked off summer there with Tour of Bright through Provello and the summer of cycling here in Australia. What are some of the things that you're most looking forward to watching, commentating on? Any specific people or stories or riders? That was one of the listener questions as well, actually.
Yeah, I love going to the Nationals and watching the under-19s and the under-23s. Just love that for the same reasons that we've just spoken about in terms of watching that next gen come through. And remember when Felicity Wilson-Heffernan first won the time trial at the Junior Nationals, which was in Ballarat, she'd been racing for about 9 months. So
She did the same speed that Grace and Georgie did. A little bit shorter distance, but I remember looking at the results going, my God, she's done the same speed as Georgie, who was 10th at Worlds, and Grace, who is the best of all time trialer in Australian history.
yes.
She rode the same average speed and
Yeah.
it was like 6 to 8 Ks less. But my God.
Still.
Oh, no. The point of how amazing it was, it was incredible.
So that's what I look forward to the most for the summer of cycling. The Tour Down Under is a fantastic event. I love working on the Tour Down Under. That's great to see some of the best in world cycling come to Australia. And when I watch that race, I look for the Neo Pros. Who are the young riders that we can see? Like we saw Del Toro win a stage. We saw Albert Philipsen last year or this year at the Tour Down Under. You look at the results from the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race from 2019. In 44th position, Jasper Philipsen. 45th, Tadej Pogacar. Teammates together at UAE. So that's when you get to see them for the first time. And I always look for that rider that we're seeing for the first time at World Tour level. Incidentally, Pogacar in 2019, he was due to fly home on the Monday. The races for the Cadel races on the Sunday. He was due to fly home on the Monday. Sunday night, couldn't find his passport. He's 19 years of age, is in Australia, is on the other side of the world for the first time. Monday was Australia Day. So the rest of the team flew home.
Yeah.
Alan Piper was the sports director. Everybody around Tadej was nervous. Alan has told this story. Everybody around Tadej was nervous, but he simply said, okay, I stay another day. Stayed in Australia for another day, 24 hours, maybe even 48 hours. They did a quick turnaround for his passport so he could then go back to Europe. So those are the elements, more so than necessarily who's winning the race. It's watching the next gen stars come through that I love the most.
This is my last question. Talk of the next gen, who do you think are the next names, the next big names from Australia?
From Australia?
Yeah, I thought you've seen in the last couple of years.
I'm really excited about Jack Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Talia Appleton, who we've spoken about a lot already here. Really excited about those two. The first and second from this race, the Tour of Bright, really excited, looking forward to seeing what they can do. The two kids from B grade.
Yep.
It's a pretty long list. One standout on the male side of thing, Connor Wright. So mountain biker from WA. He brilliant on the road as well. He's had some good results on the road. But from what I can tell, he's not doing quite the same amount of volume of training as other guys his age that he's equal to or better than. So there's a bit more upside. And he seems quite relaxed. So he seems to be able to cope pretty well with a high pressure situation because he's pretty chill. There was, in fact, when Lockie Stewart did the 300-kilometre ride here at some point around about 12 months ago, Connor Wright was one of the responders to Strava, and it was chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Max Gould can do because I grew up with his dad, a good friend of his dad. So watching the next generation come through of offspring of guys that I raced with. I've loved watching Neve Bradbury. I recently did a renovation at my house and Hayden was the one that oversaw that.
Yeah.
And when I was riding the Melbourne to Warrnambool, Hayden's wife was the one that was feeding us from the side of the road. So watching Neve come through has been really cool.
Yeah. No, it's great.
That's very cool. I think it's very cool to have all those stories alongside things as you've just spoke about for the last hour, that you can sort of watch how people progress, not just on the results sheet, but just as human beings.
Yeah.
And then conveying that to people, I think, is really unique and special and hard for people to do. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll have to coach up a few more athletes to make that list. But
It's the goal now.
Okay.
Now that we've got the hard names.
All right, give me one to watch from each of you, of your athletes.
Well, I mean, Tali. I think Tali's the obvious one. The
Yep.
obvious one that I coach.
Okay.
I'd say from this weekend, Will Verhoff, he was 7th GC in B grade, which was essentially, as we said, the under 17 champs, and he's very same as the sort of qualities you've just said. He's very relaxed. He's staying with us this week with the team, and he's I coach him, and he's got a lot of potential.
Where's he from?
He's from Warrnambool. He's a very classic country kid, and I think he can go a long way. I think he's very good.
Two really good cyclists from Warrnambool, Jamie Drew and Michael Lynch.
Yep.
Lynch, he rode the he rode the Olympics in '84, and Jamie Drew, he was with the Mercury team, won the Warrnambool a couple of times. He was a bit unlucky with his generation that he rode. And who?
I think maybe a bit more of an obvious one, but we'll still watch this space with Fergus Browning. I think there's still a lot left in his career.
He's racing with an Asian team.
Yep, next correct.
Year?
Yep. So he's racing with an Asian team that has a pretty good European calendar as well. So heaps of opportunity left, and there's still plenty of fire in him as well.
Yeah, and I got one more for you. What happens next year with Sarah?
But yeah, very, very exciting few things. I think there's still a little bit of, wait and see how her recovery goes and that kind of thing, but very confident with her progression so far. And I think there's a lot to be had with the Grand Tours, particularly the Tour and the Giro. The rest have just been released.
She's the second best climber in the world, in my opinion.
I think she's not far off being the best as well from what I can work out.
Is the hardest part of coaching her getting her to rest?
Yeah. But granted to her, she's very coachable and has improved quite a bit with that. I'm super excited with the challenge ahead with the Giro and the Tour. I think I've got so much confidence in her.
So her and Plappy are two careers that I've loved watching because I first saw both of them as probably 12-year-olds at the Brunswick Clinic on a Sunday. Yeah. When I went down there one day just to help out for a few months and to see both of them at the level that they're at now. Richie Benno had 8 rules of commentary, and one of them is there's no team called them or us. But when you've watched someone from the age of 12 and they're all of a sudden trying to win a stage at the world's biggest bike race, it's hard not for the team to be us.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Awesome. Matt Keenan, thank you very much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you.
We hope you've had fun. I've personally had a lot of fun with this conversation. It was some awesome insights as we knew it would be. So thanks heaps for coming on, and have a great week up in Bright with the family.
I will. Enjoy it. Look forward to listening to more episodes in the future.
Great. Thanks,